Thank you for watching. This is Now. We begin with a traffic alert from Maui. A crash on Honoapi'ilani Highway and the Lahaina Bypass Road just past Oluwalu is blocking the northbound lane. Now, this is video into our newsroom from around the scene. There's a long line of traffic as cars pass by this vehicle. Maui police, firefighters, and EMS responded. We're told one person may have been trapped in the vehicle. Of course, we're going to pass along any updates as we get them. Now to the latest on the Maui wildfire disaster. There's a new process in place for Maui residents who want to submit a DNA sample to help identify missing loved ones. You must now contact the Family Assistance Center by phone or email to make an appointment. We have those contact information listed on your screen right now. And meanwhile, we're learning more about some of those who were lost in the flames. Maui police released the names of 3 more victims who died in the Lahaina disaster. 75-year-old Glenn Yoshina from Lahaina. This photo was provided to us by his family. Also identified 58-year-old Bibiana Bihing Lutrania and 63-year-old Rafael Imperial, both from Lahaina. 60 of the 115 confirmed victims are now known. Another 8 have been identified by MPD, but their families haven't been found or notified. Oprah was on CBS this morning talking about the new fund she opened with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson to provide wildfire survivors with direct payments. She said she was inspired by Dolly Parton, who started a similar fund back in 2017 after a wildfire event in Tennessee. But Oprah says shortly after creating the People's Fund of Maui, she became the target of online attacks and conspiracy theories.
In the beginning, so many people were calling, asking, where do we give our money to? So I thought, I'm going to give people a place to
create.
We're going to create something. And I still think it's a really strong idea.
Yeah.
Dolly Parton was right. Putting money directly into the hands of the people is a significant thing. And the model that's been created, I will say that as of today, 2,200 people have been cleared and verified. And those people are going to get a notice from the People's Fund of Maui and going to have the money.
And it's working. Oprah and The Rock donated $10 million to start the fund. Eligible adults can receive $1,200 a month through the recovery period. Since the disaster, people from around the world have been donating to different organizations. Some of the biggest agencies that have been collecting funds are already giving out money, while some are still in the planning phases. Eddie Dowd has more.
After witnessing the heartbreaking images of flames ripping through Lahaina, countless people around the world poured in donations. Some of the biggest agencies collecting are already giving out money, while others are still in the planning phase. The biggest pot of money, over $110 million, is the Hawaii Community Foundation's Maui Strong Fund. Just over a month later, they've given out nearly $19 million of that to nonprofits.
We've seen major tragedies, but we've also seen major acts of compassion. We've seen a community come together like never before.
Maui United Way has raised over $10 million. About half of that has already gone to more than 5,000 victims through a one-time $1,000 payment.
The urgency is always there. It couldn't come out fast enough. We were working around the clock. I was sleeping at my office. Everyone was all hands on deck.
MMA star Alimale McFarland on Instagram raised $2.6 million.
When people start coming at me, when I'm like doing everything I can to get this money to the families. But I just want to reassure everybody that the money is not even in my hands yet.
She says Meta, Instagram's parent company, has yet to release the funds. And remember this, in addition to Oprah and The Rock's personal donation of $10 million for the People's Fund of Maui, so far about $800,000 has been raised online.
You want to take care of the greatest need of the people, and that's giving them money.
Oprah and The Rock promised to distribute $1,200 monthly payments, but haven't said how much has been distributed so far. Wildfire survivors can still apply for the People's Fund of Maui online, and nonprofits are still accepting donations. For more information, you can go to our website. Eddie Dowd, Hawaii News Now.
Another member of President Biden's cabinet visited Maui to get a first-hand look at what needs to be done to rebuild. Casey Lund is in Lahaina, where the U.S. Secretary of Energy visited the disaster zone and met with victims.
Aloha, and the Secretary, Jennifer Grantham, said that she wanted to be here in person to get an idea of what this community's gone through, what they need as far as energy goes. Now, rebuilding the energy infrastructure here in Lahaina is going to be a long process, and one that folks are already starting to debate, of course, how that should be done and how that should look, replacing the electrical grid here. We also know that the federal government's provided a grant, $95 million, in order to help harden Hawaii's electric grid. We know that that was President Biden's bipartisan infrastructure law, and that money will go toward hardening Hawaii's electric grid. That might include putting wires underground to help eliminate the dangers of high winds, knocking down power poles, live wires, igniting dry brush, and sparking wildfires. She said the money could also be used to move and rebuild substations, even remove vegetation away from wires, adding technology to help reduce wildfire risk. She says additional funding will support a community-led process of building back Maui's energy infrastructure.
Here are some options in building back better. You get to decide. Obviously, it's a bottom-up strategy. We have to be led by the community, but helped by the federal government.
And that is really helpful because our grid is wounded. Our concerns remain about wires and how we deal with gale force winds on top of dry climate, on top of so many challenges.
She says that $95 million will help the state better withstand future weather events like hardening poles, supporting critical facilities like hospitals, water and disaster response facilities, emergency operations centers, and replacing wooden poles with fire-resistant material. In addition to that grant, FEMA recently announced that it will provide the state with $95 million to cover the cost of temporary housing, meals, and other services as it works to support so many people that have been displaced here in Lahaina. We're talking thousands of residents. So important conversations about rebuilding the power grid. I'm actually going at 8 o'clock. We're going to speak with a gentleman here in Lahaina whose home's still standing. He's, though, upset. He said he has heard nothing from the electric company about a timeline to restore power. He's still living and working here. He's back in his home the day after the fire, and he's obviously very sensitive to his neighbors who have lost everything. But again, he's in the boat that many people are. They still have their home. They're still trying to operate, live their daily lives, go to work, many of them working off generator power, and that is just unsustainable for some people. So we're going to try and get him some answers today.
UH Water researchers are offering free water testing to help ease the confusion over the safety of Maui's water. It's been more than a month since Lahaina and Kula residents have been under a do not drink advisory. The Department of Health announced a trace amount of a contaminant called toluene was detected last month in the Upper Kula water system. But Maui County's Director of Water Supply says more recent tests show no sign of the chemical and that 85% of Kula could have the advisory lifted within a week. The UH Water Resources Research Center is conducting free water testing, just like it did after the tainted water crisis at Red Hill.
Our hopes are that Department of Water Supply is going to be able to lift advisories in some of the low-risk parts of the system fairly soon. And, from what we have seen in our samples in Kula and what we have seen in the Department of Water Supply's samples is that primarily we haven't seen any concerning levels of volatile organics in the water up in Kula.
The UH water testing is not EPA certified, and residents should still follow government health advisories. If residents would like a free water test, we have a link on our website. Did Maui County have a pre-existing plan in place to respond to the wildfire disaster? A 2019 survey found that 99% of counties have an official document called an Emergency Action Plan. Here's HNN Investigates' Allison Blair.
Despite requests to Maui County, Maui Police Department, and even the State Emergency Management Office, no one's provided us with a copy of Maui's emergency action plan. Tonight, it's still unclear if one even exists.
Freaking power line just went down.
Between August 7th and August 8th, multiple wildfires sparked across Maui.
See them right there, that's the power line that started.
Upcountry, Kihei, and Lahaina.
Oh my God, it is so close.
The flames fueled by 70-mile-per-hour winds from Hurricane Dora as the storm spun south of the state. While both state and county officials have refused to confirm whether or not Maui had an emergency action plan in place to help steer its response during the disaster, H&N Investigates was able to sit down with the head of Oahu's emergency management agency to get a better understanding of what the document might contain.
When an emergency does happen, then we would actually rely on the emergency operations plan to basically guide us through the process.
Think of it kind of like a playbook.
So it's not about how we respond to an emergency in a specific area, but if a large-scale emergency were to happen, who are the parties that need to be contacted, who are the parties that need to talk to each other, and what are the resources that might be available to assist in that response.
In those rapidly evolving situations, how important is it to have somebody in the room that's done it before?
So it's really important for us to have people who are not only experienced but have the right connection within their agencies. So most emergencies, we have for the city what we call emergency coordinators. So these are individuals that are identified by each department that work with our department on a day-to-day basis for emergency planning. So they're really well versed in what those emergency plans are.
Who's calling the shots in the Emergency Operations Center during an emergency?
So in most cases, it'll be either myself or my deputy director.
But then you are relying on the expertise of people in these different departments to give you information that can help you make those decisions.
Absolutely.
While Oahu's plan isn't geographically specific to each neighborhood, there are strategies in place on how to respond to known hazards in certain communities.
It's like tsunamis. We already have predefined zones. Other hazards like dams. We already have predefined dam evacuation zones, so we have pre-plans for those. But for other hazards like flash flooding or fires, we really don't know exactly where those are going to occur. That's really going to depend on the specifics of that incident.
Toya says practicing drills are also a critical part of being prepared.
We regularly train and exercise with our emergency coordinators to make sure they understand their roles and responsibilities.
Although we haven't been able to confirm the existence of Maui's emergency action plan, H&N Investigates discovered another document that shows the county was well aware of the destruction a wildfire could pose. According to the county's hazard mitigation plan, there were 28 wildfires in West Maui between 1999 and 2019, more than any other community in the county. Officials created this map identifying more than 6,000 buildings considered to be either at medium or high risk of being impacted by fire. The report also states if any section of the road or utility line is damaged by a wildfire, the entire system may be impacted. Two predictions that became reality August 8th. Damaged infrastructure led to widespread power outages and water hydrants running dry.
Oh my God, this is a nightmare.
Meanwhile, blocked roads prevented people from fleeing. What, if anything, the county had done to address those issues prior is unclear. What lessons has Oahu learned from watching what's happened in Maui?
We know that our capacity to respond to emergencies is going to be limited. And there's limitations on what government can do. So one thing is, how do we ask for help? How do we effectively ask for help, and how do we effectively incorporate assisting organizations into our structure?
Toya says individual residents also play a big part in terms of their own preparedness, saying people need to be aware of potential hazards in their community and educate themselves on actions they may need to take if there is an emergency. Allison Blair, Hawaii News Now.
Police say a scuba diver has died after being pulled from waters near the Haleiwa boat harbor Monday morning. Honolulu EMS says the man became unresponsive during an excursion and that he was 65 years old. The case has been classified as an unattended death. The health department is advising the public to prepare for air quality impacts due to the recent Kilauea eruption. As of Sunday, permanent air quality monitoring stations across the state report elevated air quality levels at the Ocean View and Pahala air quality monitoring stations. Health officials say the eruption has caused fog conditions to return to the west side of Hawaii Island. For more information on safety precautions, just head to hawaiinewsnow.com. All right, let's take a live look outside on this Aloha Tuesday. This is Hilo. You can see mostly cloudy, but pockets of sunshine there on Hawaii Island. We have breezy trade winds in the forecast, and those conditions are going to persist pretty much across the state as we make our way through this work week. We're going to have a full forecast coming from Guy Hagi, as well as a look at your national headlines after a quick break.
Aloha on this Tuesday. Summer is winding down. Only 10 days left before the end of summer, and still things are very quiet in the Central Pacific. Even though we are now in the peak of hurricane season, we're not seeing any cyclonic activity. We could use more rain. We're seeing just a few showers for some windward areas. Leeward sides remain mostly dry. Lots of drought conditions out there. And those winds will run pretty firm today. Look at how windy it is on Maui. But as the day progresses, these winds will pick up from Maui to Kauai. The winds will run breezy, and then they'll ease up starting tomorrow. So enjoy today. It's going to be quite comfortable, even though we got lots of sunshine with a fair bit of a cloud cover in the afternoon. It's still going to be quite sunny in the meantime, and high temperatures running to around 90 degrees. And as far as the surf, it's kind of leveling off for south and east shores. We are expecting that east shore swell to drop out even further, although we've got a small south swell coming in over the weekend. Now, over the next few days, the weather's not going to change a whole lot. We've got breezy winds today, and they'll ease up starting tomorrow. And with those winds lightening up, we could get a few spotty showers. And then the next best chance for rain is the leftovers from what used to be Hurricane Hova coming in early next week.
Republicans say they plan to move forward with an impeachment investigation of President Biden, and this comes as Congress is facing a looming deadline to keep the federal government open. Skylar Henry has more from Capitol Hill.
House Speaker Kevin McCarthy says investigations into President Joe Biden and his son Hunter continued even through the congressional August recess.
House Republicans have uncovered serious and credible allegations into President Biden's conduct.
House Republicans accused the Biden administration of leaning on the Department of Justice during its investigation of Hunter Biden and of profiting off Hunter's foreign business dealings.
We know that bank records show that nearly $20 million in payments were directed to the Biden family members and associates through various shell companies.
The White House responded, saying the impeachment is politically motivated. White House spokesman Ian Sams tweeted, "Opening impeachment despite zero evidence of wrongdoing by POTUS is simply red meat for the extreme right wing, so they can keep baselessly attacking him."
Speaker McCarthy has been under pressure from conservative members of his own party to bring this impeachment inquiry for months now.
Here we are, 8 months later, and we haven't even sent the first subpoena to Hunter Biden. That's how you know that the rushed and somewhat rattled performance you just saw from the speaker isn't real.
Some far-right members of the GOP may have forced McCarthy's hands because Congress has until the end of the month to pass spending bills or the government will shut down.
Use the power of the purse to stop this administration from trampling the American people.
Conservatives are demanding McCarthy comply with their demands, or they say they'll call for a vote to remove him as Speaker. Skyler Henry, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
A trial pitting the federal government against tech giant Google got underway today. The Justice Department and 14 other states are accusing the company of illegally monopolizing web searches by making deals with phone companies to be the top search engine on their devices. Now, Google denies those claims. Natalie Brand has more.
Google's legal team arrived at the U.S. District Court in Washington Tuesday to defend itself against a landmark antitrust trial. The Justice Department claims the tech giant illegally pays more than $10 billion annually to make Google the default search engine on the iPhone and web browsers, shutting out rivals.
What the government is arguing in this case is that Google has not only attained a monopoly, but it's done so through using anti-competitive tactics.
Antitrust advocate Stacey Mitchell says Google makes it nearly impossible for small companies to compete for business online.
They are a gatekeeper for access to information for every business that wants to reach a consumer. That is incredibly powerful.
The government says Google dominates nearly 90% of all searches in the U.S. and 95% of searches on mobile devices. Google denies any wrongdoing.
People don't use Google because they have to. They use Google because they want to.
Google's chief legal officer, Kent Walker, says if users don't want to use Google as the default, they could change it.
It's really easy for people to switch. On their smartphone, people have 40 or 50 different apps. So it couldn't be easier to download another one if they're looking for a different search engine.
The trial is expected to last about 10 weeks. Natalie Brand, CBS News, Washington.
iPhone users who are tired of having to deal with Apple's proprietary Lightning cable, relief has arrived. The company has unveiled the iPhone 15 lineup, and the new phone ditches the Lightning connection in favor of a charging cable that's compatible with non-Apple products. The iPhone 15 also features an expanded dynamic island tool that is home to alerts, notifications, and other controls. That new tool takes the place of the notch, the black part at the top of the screen that houses the top speaker and selfie camera. The 6.1-inch iPhone 15 starts at $799, and the 6.7-inch phone starts at $899. The new phone comes in pink, yellow, green, blue, and black. All right, it's time for some good news now, and it's an exciting day here at Hawaii News Now. Happening today after This Is Now at 1 p.m. is the launch of HNN's new show called Spotlight Now. So the hour-long program is hosted by Yunji Denise and Ryan Kalei-Suji, and they're going to go in-depth into critical topics impacting the state, and they'll be able to answer viewers' questions live. Check it out.
Spotlight Now is a program where we take 1 hour, we do in-depth interviews with local leaders, be there from the business community, public affairs. We have, of course, a lot of politicians who will come on. We get to do 1 hour, really in-depth live interviews where the person who's being interviewed really gets to explain themselves. They know they're not going to be broken up into sound bites. They really get to share where they're coming from. And a really unique thing that we have is that the audience can participate. So on social media, they can submit their questions and we will ask those to the guest in real time.
All right, so again, this is coming up today at 1 p.m. and you can watch it every Tuesday on K5 and HNN's digital platforms. Their first guest today for their first show is going to be Governor Josh Green, and for upcoming shows, they may have 1 or 2 guests, so you'll just have to tune in to see what's coming up. Before we go, let's take a live look at Kilauea, where all the action is happening at Hale Ma'uma'u Crater. This is a live look with the USGS camera at those lava fountains there in the crater. Again, no threats to surrounding communities. All activity is in the crater. We're going to have much more news coming up, first at 4 and on later editions of Hawaii News Now. But again, don't forget to tune in to Spotlight Now on K5 at 1 o'clock. Thanks for watching.